Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena. You're watching our video comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S6 and the Google Nexus 6. Okay, so the Nexus 6 has been out for quite some time, and even now it's still quite a formidable handset just because of its notoriety with Android being the Halo device to feature the most up-to-date version of Android. And on top of that, it's still also a specs beast with its gigantic display. Meanwhile, the Galaxy S6 is making the rounds finally here in the US, and it's making quite a stir in the space just because of its overall great performance. Obviously, they target different consumers with their designs. The Nexus 6 being more a phablet S-type handset with its larger size, so you do get that added real estate, but it's quite a handful to use and operate. On top of that, the design is a little bit more on the contemporary side. It's not really elegant or premium per se. It's mostly plastic, but at least the plastic has a nice matte finish, so it doesn't really exhibit too much smudging or fingerprints. In contrast though, the Galaxy S6 is by far thinner, lighter, more compact, easier to hold with one hand, and you also have that premium aesthetics thanks to its choice of materials, and it's definitely the more premium and more attractive looking handset between the two, but it's just a matter of size preference at that point. Now for something that has so much real estate, the only thing unique that Motorola has given the Nexus 6 is just the dual front firing speakers. That's about it. Whereas with the Galaxy S6, Samsung has crammed in a lot of stuff. You have things like the fingerprint sensor, the IR blaster, the heart rate sensor in the back, and they both have built-in wireless charging, which is a great extra feature. The displays are sharp, and the nice thing about them both is that they rely on Quad HD, so they're really flagship resolutions we'd want to find. Now, the Galaxy S6 features a 5.1-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED panel versus the larger 6-inch Quad HD AMOLED panel of the Nexus 6. Now, relying on AMOLED technology, they have pretty much the same characteristics. You have those wide viewing angles, and of course, those rich, saturated, and vibrant color reproduction. Now, when it comes to details, honestly, you're not going to notice the difference between the two. Incredibly sharp. Even though technically on paper the Galaxy S6 has the higher pixel density count, but it's still quite good with the Nexus 6. But honestly, when we ran our benchmark test, we do find that the Galaxy S6's Super AMOLED display produces the more favorable qualities. So for example, well, first of all, color temperature between the two are almost identical. They have that ideal color temperature of around 6500 Kelvin. So their displays are neither too cold or too warm in tone. But the Galaxy S6 produces the stronger brightness output, and on top of that, it's far more color accurate than the Nexus 6. So when it comes to outdoor visibility and color reproduction, you're going to get a lot better results with the Galaxy S6 display. They're running two different experiences. You have stock Android Lollipop with the Nexus 6, and then you have TouchWiz running on top of Android 5.0 Lollipop with the S6. Now, we do like overall the stock Android experience, partly because it has the cleaner, minimalist UI, and that's partly because of material design. It utilizes bright colors and lots of good, cool transitions, and you have all the cool features that you have with the platform. For example, you have multi-user feature support, so you can have multiple users using the phone. You don't really get that. That's something that's been omitted with the Lollipop version of the S6's experience. And on top of that, with Nexus 6, it's going to get updates significantly faster than its rival here. But where the Galaxy S6 and TouchWiz kind of is lacking when it comes to the visual department, it's still cleaner than before, more minimalist, but it still kind of exhibits some of the elements that we've seen in previous iterations of TouchWiz. The good thing about it is that you have more features, software features that might prove to be more advantageous to certain people. You have things like the multitasking element with multi-window. You also have a one-handed mode and a handful of different gestures you could use to interact with the device. Now, they're both pretty responsive and quick. The Nexus 6 is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 chip, while the S6 is running an octa-core 64-bit base Exynos processor. Now, on the surface, the two are pretty responsive and quick. Basic tasks are handled very well, and they even do very good with gaming content. But when we look at the benchmark scores, the S6 has a slight advantage in pretty much all categories, just being the newer chipset and of course a smaller display. It doesn't seem to be too taxing compared to the Nexus 6 and its larger display. Now flip them over, we have the respective cameras. You have a 16 megapixel autofocus camera with an f1.9 aperture lens in the Galaxy S6 versus the 16 megapixel camera that features an f2.0 aperture lens in the Nexus 6. Now honestly, when it comes to outdoor shots, they're both fantastic. Top-notch, excellent results, a lot of detail, good sharpness, good color reproduction. The Nexus 6 seems to handle dynamic range just a little bit better than the S6, and it tends to produce the warmer color tones as well. But honestly, you're gonna like both when it comes to outdoor shots. But the S6 really shows its superior quality under lower lighting conditions. That f1.9 aperture lens is able to draw in a lot more light than the Nexus 6's camera. So basically, its shots are brighter, sharper, more detailed, better than the Nexus 6. The Nexus 6 is just underexposed, so you kind of miss out on some of the details in the scenery. When it comes to 1080p video recording, even 4K, we still favor the Galaxy S6's results. It's just, again, sharper looking, pleasing, and it handles focusing a lot better than the Nexus 6. It's kind of iffy every now and then with the Nexus 6. Call quality, we weren't really won over by necessarily one handset. They're both average at best. They have their good qualities, have their displeasing qualities, but for the most part, we're able to handle conversations relatively well. Battery life favors the Nexus 6 just because it has the larger battery capacity. It's a 3220 milliamp hour one inside there versus the smaller 2550 milliamp hour battery of the S6. In the benchmark tests, the Galaxy S6 reached 7 hours and 14 minutes, and of course, the Nexus 6 has a higher mark of 7 hours and 53 minutes. But every day, normal usage, you're gonna get at least 1 day of battery life out of them both. And the nice thing about them too is that they offer wireless charging, and they charge very efficiently. The Galaxy S6 requires only 78 minutes to fully charge, while the Nexus 6 is not too far off at 98 minutes. Okay, so let's talk about pricing here for a moment. Now, the Galaxy S6, depending on who you go with, the price will range from as low as $600 for an outright model to as much as $700, and that's for the 32GB base version you're getting. In contrast, the Nexus 6, being the larger handset, it's going to carry a higher price point, but interestingly enough, the 32GB model is priced at $700. So depending on who you go with the S6, which carrier, you're going to be paying the same price. But at the bare minimum, the $100 difference between the two handsets, it's justified. It ultimately comes down to personal preference. Obviously, if you want a bigger phone, go with the Nexus 6. But if you want a pretty good compact and more premium feeling smartphone, go with the S6. Both are pretty good in a variety of different areas. They have pretty similar battery life, similar performances, so there's a lot to like about both. So if you guys want to learn more about either handset, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.